now we see Jason with ooh, not a great rack. It's a kind of neither ooh nor owl kind of rack. Don't you think, Jesse?
Ugh, that is yeah, not pleasant. And also not pleasant on Josh's side either, but we'll get to that. He at least has a few more workable options. Jason here really doesn't have that many, realistically. Um, it's pretty challenging. Uh, with the additions of oh whoa and ooh woo, when you have two of those tiles, those would be decently considerable. But in this case, oh woo and ooh whoa neither work. So instead, there's not a whole lot of reasonable options here, um, that Jason can consider, at least in the realm of scoring and balancing. Um, and there's no, as mentioned in the chat, there's no vrouw, to use that lovely Dutch word, which I believe describes, I think it's just the word for a woman, in Dutch, that also happens to work in Scrabble. So yeah, challenging as far as choices. I'm not seeing anything immediately jump out as far as something to play. Um, and then in the hypothetical world of exchanging, I'm not sure exactly what I'd exchange either. What are we seeing on the analysis side of things, Weibin? What's looking good?
Yeah, Exchange is actually doing pretty well, I would say. He was looking at OE, which scores a bunch of points. But the question is whether it's worth keeping ANU. Pretty weak leaf. And yeah, I mean, I think Sim is, well, after a few iterations, OE is seeming uh, to float up to the top. Um, yeah, in the exact position that he's played it in, because you know that OE takes a bunch of front hooks as well. Yeah, but I think it's a very tough choice. If you don't play OE, you probably exchange.
Yeah, and it's a fairly self-explanatory word as far as its definition when playing it. Owie. That rack was an owie. Painful for sure. But thankfully, he has a chance to get something else instead. And now we have Josh's little complication here as far as what he's going to do with his clunky letters. Little shout out to a nice little meme from Ben Schonbrunn, egg. So I'll just say it, egg. But I don't think egg is the actual play to make here. I think something along the lines of mig certainly are considerable. Or maybe there is something hooking owie, like Toei, and I don't know, gift, I guess an example, but I mean something like mig I'm liking a lot. Although gift is a lot of points, so I mean I can see him playing that too.
Yeah, gift. Well, I mean GMP still some upside potential potentially, but it's not a great leaf as well. But he goes for the points. Uh, yeah, and Jason spots he probably spots odd number to the G, which does not play. Very nice word there. But not sure whether he has any other playable bingos in this turn. It's Yeah, I don't think he has any playable bingos. Not an easy play as well, I think, at this point. Um, he can use the U and the B together, maybe like play NUB, nub, um, parallel to gift. Yeah, but that doesn't look that great as well because it opens up the double word score. Makes it quite easy to parallel. But he seems to be going for it. It sets up the S as well for snub. And he does have an O, so he can play OB. OB next turn. So not that well, I guess it's still dangerous, but he has the tiles to make use of that spot.
And of course, taking out the X spot in the process. So no easy X bomb for Josh here after that play of Nub. Still certainly ways to score. reasonably well, just not the easy 54, 55, I think it was, that he would have had. So looking for other plays instead. That might go in that spot there. Poxy, of course, immediately comes to mind as far as something that does score and plays alongside. What other options are we looking at?
I mean, from my point of view, I think Proxy is the clear winner. Partially because you set up the M, right, and then you can play down uh, from hooking onto the Y that you've just put out there. Um, I mean, I am looking at it on simulation, and the second option is just retaining the Y, which is interesting because you might pick up something like the R for grimy the next turn, but I don't think it's worth it, especially since you are already like setting up the M with Proxy. So I think yeah, Proxy is the right play in this case.
Back over to Jason, who already has one of multiple bingo options lined up. Well, it's really a question of um, which of the options that he has that he'll end up doing. Good exercise for those players looking to step up another level is as much as it can be tempting to immediately play when you see something that scores, even a bingo, it's worth it to just re-look at the board and reanalyze after your opponent has put down a play just to see how the board has changed and whether there is anything worth playing that's different other than what you already pondered. He has done that and has opted to play roasted instead of doters after he's considered the board. And doter was really lined up because it was available as a double-double before Poxy was played. So he has gone for, yeah, a nice scoring play here now that his original one was taken away.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Roasted is that it's actually pretty open, right? I mean, it opens up the triple word scores, and there's a double that someone can play potentially a Z at the double letter score. Roasted takes a front hook, roasted. But he might also be thinking that, the board's already pretty open. The Foxy is there, there's a Y dangling to the triple that word score. Howie is also open. Um, if I were in his shoes, I might have considered potentially using the Howie hook, Towier or Towies. Towier is slightly more defensive potentially because Towies still takes a T behind. Yeah, but he had some few options there that would have scored the same number of points as Roasted. So interesting choice from Jason Keller. But I think quite a good, quite a good choice as well. I mean, given the board is already pretty open, so yeah, I can see why he did that.
Then over to Josh. He does not have the O that he would have liked to see in the open for commingle with his rack. I believe, if memory serves me, Clemming works, I think, right? I believe that also works, but no M open for that. So there's options like, say, Minji as one example off the Y and Poxy, any number of things involving the E and roasted. Where are you leaning, Weibin, as far as plays that you're considering?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that if you go for max points, something like Mincy is gonna be your top option. But you're gonna be just so worried about the that spot that he's just played at, right? And you're just gonna be wondering like if your opponent's gonna score 60 points there. So I think he decides to take a more defensive option, sacrifice 12 points, and play Clem, keeping the ing, right, which is generally uh, not always the best set of tiles to keep because sometimes you don't always get the spots to play ing words, but it's a good leaf. So I think my sense is that I think he probably did that because he wants to block that spot, which is a little bit more dangerous. Would you have done the same thing? I mean, Minji or or Mincy or Clem in that position.
I think I share the hesitation that you mentioned with keeping ing, even though ing and an e, they're, in and of themselves, they combine pretty well together. I think just with ing words, if you don't have an immediate, obvious place to play, say a seven or an eight of that nature, then it can get more difficult. To effectively score and or balance in a lot of cases. So I'm not sure if I would have done Clem for that reason alone. I do understand that there are lots of potential high scoring options that Jason could have back if you leave that spot on the top open. But you're also assuming at this level, again, given both players are as exceptionally skilled as they are, you're expecting someone to score over 30 points easily each turn. The X is gone as the absolute worst case tile with the double letter triple word score combo at the top. Uh, an underlap using that Ian roasted, using a higher scoring tile to the right scores you 30 something points, which you realistically expect your opponent to get anyway. So I think I am leaning more towards something like Minji or Mincy, as mentioned, just for me personally. But I mean, Josh, to his credit, is an exceptionally skilled player. He just finished second at the Causeway Challenge in Bangkok. So, I'd probably defer to someone of that skill level. And, he's probably right for reasons I'm not even contemplating. But I think me personally, I probably would have gotten something like Minji or Mincy.
Yeah. And now we see it's back to Josh, and he's picked up two more E's to his leave of EGIN just now. And now I think the question is, I mean, it seems like the spot to play at is the hooking the G onto Gobi, so to form Gobi. And the question is whether you play Gene or something like Genie. So I think Gene is interesting because it sets up the T that he has, Jeanette. But at the same time, if you play Genie, Gene, or anything in that line, there's also a chance of creating an overlap potential for your opponent. If your opponent has an A or O, you can play A and Y, O and Y. So he decides to play a bit longer, play Genie. I think it's a good option because he's also trying to um, turn over some tiles and maybe pick up the good tiles, pick up the R's for Tauia, pick up the S for Tauis. I think keeping the I is not a priority in this case, even though the I goes well with the C, I think. But I think playing long is fine.
I think I slightly prefer playing the I in this case as well. Like you mentioned, I'm not super concerned with it disappearing from my rack in this case. I like it. It's a nice play. Then over to Jason. He's got that cue that in a lot of cases you'd want to remove. The only time that you wouldn't is if you just had something that scored so well that you're okay with not playing it. And I'm not seeing that jumping out at me right away. I see that there's, QI might score in the mid 20s in a few spots on the board, above RE for roasted for sure. Dropping just the Q is possible on Genie, but I wouldn't do that just given the nature of the letters left over. So I think you're playing QI. I mean, it's pretty strong to just drop it above roasted and then keep Abauge left over on his rack there. What are you leaning towards here? Do you see something that makes it worth not playing QI in this case? I'm missing it, but you have all the options open in front of you.
Yeah, I am, man, but I just moved. I just got to this move. Well, doesn't well. At least QI looks all right. I think. The other concept that he can think about is if he wants to uh, dump a few tiles and potentially give himself a better chance at another chance at the keyword. So something like BOGIE, um, down from Genie. And I think the advantage of that is that it also restricts that uh, pretty volatile spot, uh, you know, on the left of Genie. Just playing five tiles, and I think between the two, BOGIE is going to be stronger because QA is going to go well with if you pick up a D, if you pick up a T, you have QAT, you have QAID. That's going to be a big score for you. So those plays are actually doing pretty well on the simulation. Yeah, but so I think it's interesting because I think most players would just play the Q off right away. Yeah, but I think on this board, like I would say that uh, the most dangerous spot is really the left of Genie, and might be worth doing something in that position.
Yeah, because if you're Jason, where you're up by not by a ton, and then your rack is kind of, it's challenging, to work through and balance within a few turns. You are thinking about hotspots on the board, and I imagine Magpie. Shout out again to Magpie. Magpie would probably show a heat map heavily focused on that exact area you're talking about, to the left of Genie, as the most likely place in many cases that my opponent is playing, because Clem doesn't imply a whole lot about what Josh has. We know in this case he has, numerous bingo options, most likely involving the C at the end of all things. But more often than not, with an analysis through a tool like Magpie, it will focus exactly on that spot that you said, to the left of Genie, more often than not. So that does lend itself to considering other plays other than QI. As it stands, we are back to Josh. He's considering numerous options, giving this very high probability rack. What are you feeling are the standout ones so far?
Yeah, I think just take the points. Anything that plays from the C. Uh, the fact that Jason played the QI that restricts some of the options, so he had stuff like anoretic. Now, creation is fine. Um, he takes a slight lead, so I think he thinks that I think well he has two options basically, Ceratoid and creation, and I think creation puts the N at the last letter, so which is a little bit harder to form eight-letter words from. So maybe he's thinking a little bit of defense, and creation also opens
All right, so then on to
yeah.
Jason with some of that clunk. He's got Vogue plus some others, and again, you're going to look ideally over to the left of Genie, and like you said, something like Vogue and Vex and ONY and GI, that scores a fair bit. It's hard to turn that down.
Yeah, I think he has to play it, and uh, he does. I mean, he does have Ebony, next turn if he, uh, you know, he picks up. I mean, if yeah, it still gives him good score on the next turn, so I think that's quite quite a good play for Bob.
Yeah, for both players, that was the hot spot on the next turn. For Josh, he would have had a number of plays there as well, but he'll have to focus elsewhere instead. More or less level for the scores for both players, but Josh naturally having the slight edge before we see Jason's letters, just given he's got the blank.
Yeah, I mean, in this kind of situation, would you go kind of all out and do something like Mahua, like hooking onto the hooking onto Genie, or would you do something a little bit more subdued, maybe something like Mauve, Mauve? He is playing just two tiles. Wow, LAH.
Yeah, when I look at the pool, I think that's just, yeah, it scores relatively well. He doesn't really have anything that necessarily scores a lot more than that elsewhere on the board. He is okay with, some somewhat awkward letters combining together just because he has that blank. And it also takes away a more obvious spot for Jason to score without bingoing. using that triple letter score plus the double word score if he could hypothetically reach with something on his rack. So I think it's a reasonable line of logic that led him to play somewhat shorter there. Yeah, I can't fault him for it. I think it's reasonable enough.
Yeah, I think the only downside is
Amusive,
the
as it turns out, is
UE.
on Josh Castellano's rack. So that's just one of several options he'll consider next turn. He has 2 spots for it. It's really a question of if there's something else better that he could play after Jason's turn.
Yeah, so I was saying that like I think the downside of it is that you keep the B and U, which is not going to be great for your bingo chances. But I think taking the S does help. So he does have stuff like Fauvism now. Yeah, it's gonna hook onto Towies and scoring quite a bunch. But he has to be sure. I mean, he has to be sure of Towies. I wonder whether he's uh, suspecting whether that's not a word.
The chat has pointed out that there is a double-double available of Mauvaines through the E in Toei, assuming it goes unobstructed. And with Jason's play of oboe coming down here, it will be unobstructed.
And yeah, just to point out, in Jason's turn, he played oboe. He had a slightly higher scoring play of Foobar, Foobar, from the F of gift. That would have been a very nice play. It would have overlapped Taui and keeping UE. So
It also would have blocked the double-double of Mauvaines. It would have taken away Fauvism or Amusive in that spot and would have really just left plays underneath Genie to bingo in this case. So Josh still has plenty of options after this. Fubar wouldn't have prevented Josh from bingoing, but would have limited some of the scoring that is coming here, as we will see.
So it seems like he's spotted Mauvaines. Okay, that's going to be his highest scoring play for sure. Um, Most likely his best play. And yeah, I wonder whether Jason has a counter after that. I mean, he had an counter for that in 2 spots. It doesn't seem like he has anything. It's blocked both his bingos, both spots for his bingo. He might be forced to play something like UN, just parallel to Mauvaines, which sets up another line for himself. I think that's what he needs. Yeah, but he's behind by quite a bit now, so um, it's going to be quite challenging to come back on this board.
So the chat is contemplating the possibility of Jason pondering non-nature using the ending creation and O and oboe. Non-nature is not a word, but as has been mentioned in terms of the discussion, if you're not sure of it and you're behind, you don't have something else, perhaps it's worth playing. However, Jason is playing against Josh Castellano, who has gone through, I know for certain, all the sevens and all the eights. I'm pretty sure that he has gone into the nines to some degree. I don't know to what depth, but non-nature is relatively high probability when you think about the combinations of common letters. I mean, there's lots of N's, yes, it's true. But as far as the stem of, say, 7 + 2, there's, they're common enough that I think it's likely he would have run into that word. Plus, having it be 5-point challenge, I think it would be a pretty quick challenge on Josh's end if you were to play non-nature.
Yeah, I think in this case, probably you just, just fish a little bit. And I think it's not entirely over yet. You might be able to play two bingos on this board. It's not very likely, but yeah, I think you have to hope for something like that. Non-nature, I guess it's plausible, but yeah, if yeah, I think if you're Jason, I think Jason has probably also studied some of the nines, so I think he might have seen it if it were there.
So
Um,
Jason's ultimately gone with un to the side of Mulvane's, and I think that's good. I have to say, to again give some insight to people here who are considering continuing to level up. Sometimes the fish, for lack of a better term, it is the right play. It can seem odd when you're at expert level, and you know high expert level, it can seem odd or wrong to play something like that sometimes. Because part of the school of thought when you're getting from intermediate to expert in general is you don't blatantly fish so often when you have scoring options. But here, it is the right thing to do, even when you're down by that much, just because the rack is so strong, unscores okay, and there's just so many possibilities as far as what happens on the board. Credit to him. It can be easy to blow through a rack sometimes when you're just trying to score when you're behind, but yeah, it's good. It's the right play. He's made the clinical correct play. And now we go over to Josh.
yeah, I think being patient is is part of the skills of expert level play, and you can't. Sometimes you have to massage your rack a little bit to to get to the bingos, and that's exactly what Jason has done here. He has nitrate. He has, well, probably a few more things now that Joshua has played fused. So fused, a very clear play for Joshua. I think that's Josh's. Yeah, it's just scoring and just playing the set and you know just trying to outscore, outrun. So it seems like Jason is playing NI. Oh, maybe not. He's probably found out. Yeah, he was almost going to play. Yeah, but he's found Napier, which is his highest scoring bingo. Um, it's a good spot by Jason, but it seems like Josh is gonna just play something like Gears. It's gonna, yeah,
I
close
think
out that.
Jeers is perfectly
Uh,
fine, like you said.
yeah. Well, do you think he will like be calculating if there's any nine timer that might play in that, even after Gears?
I suppose you think about the possibility. For sure. And Josh is not low on time, so he could take the time to permute possibilities. My immediate thought is just that with both the blanks gone, that things really have to line up in the perfect way. When you think about goes under the J, it's the O and the A, of course. And then if you're playing Jeers, you have an E to the right of the J. So more often than not, it's going to have to be A or O, and then a consonant. So you just think about how far over it can go. There's so many tiles unseen to him. There are lots of possibilities, but when I look at the pool, I think, well, what can mess it up? My opponent has a random rack. Having some mix of W, Y, and or K, and arguably the H makes it challenging to do something that's a nine timer. So I think really you continue to rack up the score with something like Jeers to widen everything. If there's really not that many obvious bingo spots on the board other than what is on the bottom right now. After Jeers, maybe they play an 8 ending in an S or say an ST word using that S in Jeers. Otherwise, it's just down from the O in TOEI or through the Z, E, or D infused. So I think Jeers just limits options for your opponent to potentially bingo. It scores well. It keeps you up by more than a bingo in tempo. So I think you got to do it here.
Yeah. I mean, if it's the, I guess for me it's like, yeah, if there's no other way for my opponent to win, I would just try to think if there's any nine timers that might still play. Spend a bit of time on that, especially if I have a lot of time left. But yeah, I think equity wise, score wise, it's definitely the right choice. Um,
And
doesn't hurt to spend a little bit
sevens,
of time. Yeah,
we
yeah.
have
Go
sevens
ahead.
for Josh that I don't, let's see, are they playable right now? I'm not sure. We can go back and check that, but he's certainly got sevens that exist, and then eights possibly on the board. For Jason, when you're down by this much, we start thinking about what can he do to continue to give himself some chances. So I see things like dinky and kidney as two options through the E infuse to open up the left side of the board and create some more volatility, but he's starting to get limited in the remaining options to give him a chance to win this game. What are you thinking as far as things you do? Kitty, of course, is a thing with the D infuse, but it doesn't really create any additional spots on the board. It just leaves the Z infused and the S in Gears. So what are you thinking? Because Kitty is a nice short-term score, but I'm not sure what it does for his long-term chances.
Yeah, so skiddy is a word, and I think that's what he does want to open up. But of course, he doesn't know that Josh has an S, the case S, uh, and he's going to be hit pretty hard. So I think Kitty is the right play. I mean, I guess the other option would be just blowing open the nine timer line, which might give him a little bit of chance to play a nine timer, especially if he's playing a bot. But I think most humans would just block the nine timer lane, and yeah, so it seems like Kitty is the right kind of idea if you're against a human. And yeah, now you can see that Josh is thinking if Kitty is a word. Uh, is he gonna risk it? Is he sure of it? What do you think?
That is
Can you
pretty low
tell?
prop,
Yeah.
but Josh has gone through the words. And I have faith, and especially because you think about, okay, so if we think about skitty, as far as it being a word, we don't always know the definitions, but I know that uh, Josh likes to go through words in his head, and he would have seen skittier at some point when studying the eights. Uh, you know, because he has gone through all of them at least once. So I'm pretty sure he knows the word, and it's just a matter of putting it down. Yeah.
Yeah. And no hold from Jason, I guess. Yeah, so he knows it as well. Um, just to point out as well, on the Quaco has also mentioned the catenanes, Catenanes through the Na of Morvines, Na and Nat here. So that if he was unsure of Skiddy, that would have been a bingo as well. So Tennesis puts the game beyond reach for Jason. And yeah, well, Jason just guess has to play through this rack. Something like, I don't know, Nazir sounds like, just looks like the highest scoring play for him. Don't know what else he can do.
Yeah, he's certainly just going to be looking to score something and get to the end of the game at this point in time. Um, just looking back at the chat, yeah, I can see Kitty gives you a long shot for sure. Hoping for that S, he would have known that Josh already had it. Certainly, I can totally understand that logic. Me, as a not quite skilled a player, I would have a hard time playing that, not having the S on my rack already. But I can totally see the mindset behind it, which is great. It just didn't work for him in this case. Uh, so Josh, he's going to be looking to make spread building potential plays here because he's going to know, of course, that he has this one at this point in time. This is where it can be somewhat harder sometimes to look at what an engine generates as choices. Um, in some cases, there might be something that's not as intuitive that could lend to increasing spread. Um, what are we thinking here, Weibin, as far as spread generating opportunities that Josh might consider for himself?
Oh, I'm actually looking more at Jason's rack, and he does actually have an interesting end game sequence, I would say. Um, which in this case, if you look back at Josh, he does have plays like WHOA below Gears, which he does find it. No, not exactly. Oh, okay, well, almost. So Jason's best play um, is actually ARYL, like almost in the same position. And I think the reason why it does so well is because it also blocks WHOA, and it forces him to play like WHO in that spot, uh, to the triple word score. So, and of course, with his remaining tiles of NIRL, he can play Neural beside MU and AN. So that I think is probably the best end game. Um, yeah, but Neri is appears to be the second best, so not too far off right there. But I think for Josh, I think it's pretty much WHOA after Neri. It's a clear winner.
Lots of scoring power. And with that one, that would be 39, I believe, right? So he should be at 577.
Yeah,
Very close to a 600 game here. And that's without a triple triple, so that that makes it pretty impressive just in general. He did have the double double with Mulvane's that scored a lot, but just shy of
yeah,
600 with no triple triple is very impressive.
and with his opponent scoring, well, playing two bingos as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, very impressive. Yeah, I guess Josh also needs to calculate like what happens if I guess I'm thinking if Jason has any other outs
Oh, besides
besides
Rills.
besides reels. I mean, in this case, it's apparently not worth blocking it, but it's worth thinking about it.
Yeah, because I think if you were to block that spot, I mean, a likely responsive play from Jason is Izar. That would score him 26 points. And then that's kind of the decision is it worth giving my opponent the choice to play for 26 before I go out, as opposed to just playing Woa in the first place? That something he could take the time to do the math on, but I think Izar is the likely response to score a fair bit if he doesn't get to play rules.
Yep, you're right. So it would be something like if you play something like holes, HOLES, then Izar will come down, and then Awa, and I think overall it's still better to just play War WHOA straight away.
I think what Josh is contemplating is playing down to the S and Gears with Whale, and then leaving something like How or Hoa underneath of the J and Gears for the next turn. That appears to be the line of logic that he's taking here.
Yeah, I think it's right for him to calculate and do. Yeah, and I think he's worked out that just playing War straight away is better. So I think he's onto the right track. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is really the top level expert play, right? This is you need to consider these scenarios and this what happens if I block, what happens if I don't block, and he has plenty of time to work it out. And yeah, it's the right thing to do. Okay, he's back to blocking. He's working out the math.
I haven't done the math myself, but I imagine it must be pretty close. Like you said, woe still being the better one. Do you happen to know roughly, for those who love the numbers, the difference in the two sequences?
It is a 5 point difference. Yeah, wait, yeah, it is a 5 point difference there. Yeah, and yeah, he has plenty of like points, like plenty of plays that tie with Wales. Like, yeah, quite a few permutations for that move. Yeah, but just playing war straight away is gonna be net him the most points.
So just while we're waiting for the last couple moves to play out here, we'll just make a couple of quick notes. We'll be coming back from lunch break at 2:40 p.m. Central Time. That's 3:40 p.m. on the East Coast in North America. That's 12:40 p.m. on the West Coast, 8:40 p.m. in the United Kingdom. There will be a change up in the commentary team as well. As much as Weibin and I love being here, I have to go and fly, literally, for my job. And Weibin is going to get some well deserved sleep, given it is currently just after 2 a.m. Where he is at.
That's
So
right. That's right.
we will have you in very capable hands for the afternoon. We have Sean Abassi and Rob Brabinski, who will be in the virtual studio taking over us to do 3 games of coverage this afternoon. So I would watch if I could. Sadly, I will be in the air, but I know that you'll be in wonderful hands with the two of them for the afternoon games.
And I will catch up when I wake up. Yeah, it's a very exciting tournament. Many skilled players and very high quality games that we're seeing.
And
Yeah,
then
and
after you've slept and after I've slept, we'll be back tomorrow to provide another four
that's
games
right.
of coverage on day 2. So we will come back, we promise.
Yeah. Uh, well, I mean, the funny thing about this play, I mean, not to belittle what Josh is doing, Nigel does this play in like 10 seconds or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I wonder how he does it. Yeah, but I think it's very principled to calculate and maximize the spread.
We mentioned 5 point difference, and that doesn't seem like much, but that can make the difference sometimes, in terms of even pairings for a final matchup in the last round or a penultimate round, perhaps, when you're going for a title. Having every bit of spread is helpful. So it's perfectly reasonable for Josh to work out the math and the sequences because he has the time. He's clearly seen the plays to consider. It's really just working out perfect play from your opponent in response. So he has likely already seen that Izar is the most likely play coming down from Jason if he were to play Wales. And it's really just playing out the other possibilities that maybe he hasn't contemplated up to
Yeah,
here. But given that the time is whittled down to just over a minute, we do expect to see a play relatively quickly here from Josh.
yeah. I must say that he is even considering like, playing the LAE first and then playing War the next turn. That's very creative as well. So he is going through more possibilities than what we are thinking about. So I mean, really, this is very expert play we're seeing. Um, so he's going through all kinds of possibilities. I think even more than what he's showing us on his right. I think in this case he's thinking of something like LASE probably. Okay, he's decided.
Ultimately, he has pulled out Woe as expected, and that is indeed, as Weibin mentioned, the best of the sequences at the end, and we'll expect Jason to go out immediately. All right, so with that last play, let's go to the on the table mic to hear what the two players have to say.